To my YouTube channel. In a moment I'll be doing some Q&A sessions, but I just want to remind you, if you're new here, to hit the subscribe button down there, share this video, give it a thumbs up, and check out the links below. We have a free gift whenever anybody signs up for our email newsletter. Let's jump into those questions. So, second question I had here today. Somebody asked me the question, why don't we see more people like George Muller with their faith? And George Muller, if you know the story, was he was originally German, who came to live in England, in Bristol, and he fed thousands, probably hundreds of thousands over the course of his life, of orphans in Bristol, had orphanages, and everything was run by faith. And again, he was a really great man of faith. Really encourage you to read his story. So the question somebody's asking me is, why don't we see more people like that? Frankly, I would say we do. Here's a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, sometimes we only celebrate people after they're dead and gone, and I think there are people right now who, through faith and patience, are believing God for hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, frankly, to flow into the kingdom and the plans and purposes of God. Sometimes, though, those are the very people you'll see criticized. You know, it's really interesting. I go to Northern Ireland quite a lot, probably every year, and in the sort of spirit-filled circles in Northern Ireland, probably one of the most loved characters you'll ever hear mentioned is Reinhard Bonnke, somebody who spent all of his life preaching the gospel in Africa. And sometimes one of the most reviled, like, oh, we hate him, is Kenneth Copeland. And yet, most people don't realize those guys were best friends. And Kenneth Copeland wrote the check for about 60 or 70% of all Reinhard Bonnke's crusades. So here you have somebody like Kenneth Copeland using faith, preaching faith, to finance the gospel, and I think that's every bit as powerful as that which George Muller did. So I think there are those people. Maybe we don't always recognize them. Maybe we'll read books about them, or your great-grandchildren will in 50 years' time, and we don't appreciate the people we have amongst us right now. Just another quick thought with the George Muller thing and people like Hudson Taylor, who came out of the ministry of George Muller as well. Sometimes what happens there as well, like George Muller had a very clear idea. In a way, George Muller's teaching was that you should never ask anybody for anything. You should never let your needs be known to others. And I think that's a really honorable position. I honor him, I honor his faith. But if George Muller were here today, I've realized with the hindsight of maturity, it's not actually a biblical position. That's not wrong. But it's also not wrong to let people know what you're involved in, what you're believing for. That's wrong to put pressure on people and to manipulate people, to do the kind of silly trick, like, I'm believing for something, would you like to help me, kind of thing. But I often, when I began my journey of faith in terms of finances, I had a very much I would call it a George Muller-esque attitude that we should never tell anybody what we were believing for, never ask anything. And I had to realize some of that was actually connected with my pride, and it wasn't actually biblical. So I would say we're growing in these things. Hudson Taylor had that similar thing where we should, he'd take missionaries to China, and they could never raise money, never ask anybody for anything. But that's not what Paul did. I'd actually challenge you, that's not what Jesus did. It's not actually a completely biblical model that we're following. So while it's honorable, and I celebrate that, and those are great stories to read, sometimes God wants us to follow more of a New Testament, more of a kingdom model, and to involve others in our giving. That's a lesson I had to learn as a young man. Boom. So I would say, yes, we still have George Muller type characters amongst us. Sometimes you're not even aware how near they are to you. Good. Thanks for watching, guys. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow with more Q&A. Hey, as always, if you're new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button down there and sign up for our email newsletter. You get a free gift when you do that. Thanks for watching.